just different.
Alright, so today we'll be making a pinch bowl or a pinch pot. You'll often hear me refer to any type of form, bowl, cup, as a pot. But before we get started on pinching our pot, I'm actually going to show you how to wedge clay. So getting your bag of clay, you always want to start out with about a fist size. So balling up your fist, holding your wrist, you want about that much clay. If you grab more than that for this project, it usually is too much, and so you want to grab just enough so that you can execute the project successfully. So usually when you get your clay, you want to make sure you look at it, make a judgment, say, hey, it's about the same, or if you have too much, you can go ahead and subtract some of that clay. So this is about as much as I'll need. Go ahead and put my clay aside. I did use a string to cut that clay. And I'll begin wedging. You want to clean the surface that you're wedging on. You don't want any dried clay to stick to your clay. So you want to go ahead and wipe that down. Once your surface is clean, you can hold the clay just like this with two hands. I'm going to put my left foot forward and my right foot back. And I'm going to lock in my elbows, and I'm just going to lean back and then lean forward, and it'll look something like this. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do it again, and I'm going to show you again. That's how it looks. If you poke two eyes on there, it's going to look like a character. Alright, that's how you know you're doing it right. You want to do this about 15 times. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and again, I'm just using my body, 8, to lean into the clay, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. The reason why we want to wedge clay is to get rid of the air bubbles, because air bubbles tend to give you problems in the end. And so what I'm going to do next, after that I've wedged it, I'm going to turn this into a ball. So what I'm doing here is I have one hand that's catching the clay, and just with my right hand I'm actually throwing the clay into my palm. You want to get it as round as possible. If you have any creases, any lines on your ball of clay, you want to get rid of those now, because usually those tend to become cracks later on. Get rid of all of them. Okay, just working my clay. Now I'm just smoothing it. Now that you have your ball of clay, you want to go ahead and rest it with your left hand, or if you're left-handed, rest it in your right hand. You're going to take your thumb and you're going to push towards your palm. Now you don't want to go all the way through, but you want to go deep enough so that you are getting a depth to it. And then what you're going to do, just with a lobster, everyone do a lobster here, just like this. Kind of looks like a wolf, but I call it the lobster technique. You're going to pinch the bottom of your pot. You want to rotate it and be consistent. You don't want to push or pinch too much all at once. You want it to be a gradual process. And so it'll end up like this. You'll have a whole middle, and then you'll have the sides that is pinched all the way around. You want to repeat this enough times around. I usually go 2 times all the way around. And once I feel like I've evened out the walls, I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same thing towards the top. Here, because I've already moved that clay towards the top, I want to go ahead and continue pinching. Now, I am almost about to complete one revolution, and I'm going to set this aside for now, and I'm going to show you an image. So essentially what you want to do is that you want to pinch all the way around until the walls are even all throughout. As you see in this example here, I have the base width and then the sidewall width that are all the same width all the way around. As you're pinching, the walls do get thinner and thinner, so as you pinch you want to make sure that it's all uniform. The walls in this example is a little bit too thick. If you look at the next example, you see that the wall thickness and the base thickness are all about the same. You don't want one area where it's too thin because that creates an uneven surface and actually creates a weak spot on your pot, and it'll tend to crack on those skinny areas. So you want to make sure that you maintain even wall thickness all throughout, from the base to the corner, all the way to the wall and to the rim. Another thing to pay attention to as well is making sure that your rim is thick enough. Alright? If your hands begin to dry out, having a bowl of water tends to help. So if you just wet your hands and kind of wipe it all the way around as if it's lotion on your palms, it'll tend to keep your hands moist enough so that you don't end up absorbing all the moisture from your clay. Now I'm going to continue to pinch this. Now, mind you, when you're pinching this project, it's going to take you a while, and eventually you'll finish, but not in one day. It may take you multiple days to actually finish this because it does take some time. Your hands do hurt, and you really have to get those walls thin enough so that your piece is functional, it's not too heavy, and you want it to be pleasant. If the walls are too thick, like as I have it now, this is a piece that's actually going to be very undesirable. It's going to end up holding quarters, and you want to be intentional for what you're using this for. So if my intention is to use this bowl to eat from, and the type of food that it'll hold is, let's say, cereal, I want to make sure that I have a good amount of volume, open space on the inside, and I want to make sure that this is tall enough so that when I pour the cereal and I pour milk into it, that I'm able, or the pot is capable of holding that type of food. And so that's what I'm making it for. So it's going to take me quite some time to actually pinch this. Now, some key tips for you to keep in mind is, as you're pinching, don't jump from spot to spot. You want to make sure that you go around in revolutions on levels. So if you want to pinch along the bottom, you want to be consistent and pinch all the way around before you move up another tier towards the middle of the wall. The reason why you don't want to jump around is because that's a good way to create an even wall thickness. You'll have some areas that are thick, and then you'll have some areas that are really thin. So that's something to look forward to. And again, you want to maintain the wall thickness on the rim, because if you have a really skinny area on the rim and it's uneven, that area is going to tend to crack, and you want to prevent that from happening. And also, if any cracks do occur, you want to maintain it by smearing it. And you got to make sure that you look at it at a certain angle as well, to make sure that not one side of the rim is not higher than the other. And so those are several things that you're looking for. And you want to complete this process. Now, when you're getting ready to clean this up, you want to make sure that you have a bag ready on hand. Now that you're ready to store it, what I would recommend is, instead of directly spraying your pot, you do want to add moisture to this, because our hands did actually absorb some of the moisture from the clay. We want to spray down our bag. Instead of spraying it directly, you want to spray your bag, give it several sprays, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to spread some of that water around on the inside, and then I'm going to place my pinch pot inside, and then I'll wrap it very tight. And I'm ready to store it. So go ahead, put it on your bat, and then you can put that away. Now, I do want to discuss a couple things here. There are several style bowls that you can make with your project. The ones that I have here, they're a little bit smaller. These were made by advanced students. But what I actually do want you to consider is that you have a couple shapes here. One that fans out, where it's narrower on the base, and it's a lot more rounder, and it'll give you more volume. This one's a little bit more taller. It doesn't get as wide as this one. If you compare the width from here to here, the pot here on your right is actually a lot more thinner. There's actually a differing detail too. As you can tell when you flip it over, this one doesn't have a foot, and then this one does. So I'll actually show you guys a way that you can add a foot on your pieces. And once we get to that part, I'll actually show you a separate tutorial on how to add a foot on an actual pup. Okay. A couple things to keep in mind as you're pinching: do not create uneven surfaces by pinching too much on one part. You want to make it as uniform as possible, making sure that the walls and the base are all about the same width. And make sure that if your hand dries out, make sure to put some water on it, spread it, and it'll re-moisturize your clay. Alright? If any cracks do appear on the surface, you want to make sure you mend it just using your finger. Some people tend to use some water, but if you overuse water, your clay will become weaker. Right? There's a good balance that you need to maintain by adding water and sometimes not adding water at all. So storage is very important. Make sure that your bag doesn't have any holes, and when you're ready to store it, just put it on your back and make sure you flip it over and rest it on its lips. Okay? And just to give you an anatomy of where the different parts of the bowls are, okay? The bottom is the foot, okay? Kind of like the human body. Then we have the body, and then we have the lip, which is the top part here. This is the part that is actually could have contact with our lips, so we want to make sure we take care of that, make sure that it's even, that it's not rough, and yeah, you guys will see a demo on polishing lips, but that will be later on. Okay, thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, you can ask me in class. Thank you.